Friends, fans, and fine folk, grab your drinks and snacks and come on down to the campfire with me and my guest, Matthew Perkins, DM. How's it going, bud?
Oh wow. You didn't say you were going to do like a fun intro. I didn't prepare. I didn't sign up for fun. I thought we were
Well,
having a serious conversation.
it is going to be serious.
Okay.
It is going to, from this point on. It's the only joke I'm allowed. It's not even a joke. The only fun that we're allowed to have. Little campfire.
I'll put this beer away. Okay, it goes over there.
You're allowed to drink beer around a campfire. Unless you
good.
get me demonetized. I don't know what the rules are on Twitch. Are we allowed to drink?
No.
If you just in case, it's definitely not beer.
Yeah.
It's apple
No.
juice or something that you've put in a beer can just for fun. Because we're all about
It's
fun.
urine.
It's urine. We're allowed to drink urine on camera.
It's weird. It's a loophole. It's a really unpleasant loophole. They should plug it up. It's a bad hole. Oh man, I'm so glad you got me here. I'm so excited.
Glad to have you here. My first question is usually to the chat. How's my volume? Because it's weird, but on a very rare occasion, I sometimes have audio issues on my streams. I don't think you probably ever do as a fellow streamer. You probably never have to deal with like audio tech goblins or anything. Always.
No, I'm infallible and I can't be killed by mundane weapons. It's fine.
I'm just going to see if I can do something about this quality, because before the stream you were perfect, and then even
is it
before we
cooked?
went live. No, you're still fine. It's just every so often you'll go real pixelated.
Oh,
If you could stop being pixelated,
really my voice. You don't know that.
could you?
I stopped being pixelated. Yeah.
Are you doing it on
I'll
purpose?
turn that off.
You're just
Here,
pixelating your face.
Here's what I'll do. I'm gonna even turn off your stream so that like maybe I'm not using any bandwidth.
And
Okay, I'm not even looking at you anymore.
He's not even going to see me. It's very much a one-sided conversation. So what this is going to be essentially is you're in an interrogation room, and I'm behind the one-way glass, and I'm just gonna ask you things. It's going to be a real interrogation.
Man, there was a while where I worked for an internet scam, and it was pretty wild. But that was kind of what it was like. I was in a room, and I'd get messages and stuff, and I'd talk to people, but I had no indication that any of these people were real.
Right? And you worked
at first
for
I thought I was scamming
scam?
people. Yeah. You know, like how much can I say without getting sued? And like, what's the life expectancy of an NDA? Are they forever, or are they just for a little bit?
I don't know. What's the statute of limitation? It depends what your scam was, I guess. I don't know what.
I don't know. Okay, I'll speak in generalities. You know, how like you're watching TV. Okay, it's 2 a.m. in the morning. You should be in bed. You got school or work. But oh no, there's this ad that's come on. Hey, if you send a text message to our service, we're going to respond with a funny joke or something sexy or something crazy. Why don't you ask Jeeves? You know, send us a question and we'll answer it. I was the guy on the other end.
So
right?
you were Google? People would just text you things and you'd be like, here, have this website that I just Googled for you.
I was like Google. I was off-brand evil Google. I was like Boogle. I was Boogle or something.
Bugle.
But like, it was crazy. It was crazy what we do, because the gimmick was, hey, I just need your phone number and your name, and I'm going to find out everything about you. And I'm going to wow you by saying, hey, I know you went to this school. I know that you work here. I know that you're friends with this person. And it was just like, I have 2 minutes to social media you as hard as I can and find everything, and then I respond. And I get 50 cents per text message, but you pay $5, right?
Wow.
It was a pretty wild gig.
How did you get this job?
I think I just kind of applied. I sent them an email and they said yes. I don't think they looked at my resume. I think they literally hire everybody. It was crazy.
Was it a... So I'm trying to understand. So was it like a chain thing? They sent you an email like as part of like a scammy thing, and then you were like, "Hey, are you hiring?" Like, what's...
No, it wasn't like I didn't like flip it. I didn't like go like, "Hey, I can make some money off this thing you've scammed." Look, here's the thing. From my perspective, I was like, all of these rubes are sending in text messages, and I'm getting 50 cents per text message, right? These rubes, we're scamming them. After a while, I realized I am working harder than I've ever worked before for like maximum of $9.50 an hour, right? I think I'm the rube.
Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah.
This is a fascinating
Yeah.
story that we've gotten to
Thanks.
before even the introductions. So for anyone,
Oh, really?
for
Sorry.
anyone joining, who the hell are you? Matthew Perkins,
Hey.
.net.
What's up, everybody? My name's Matthew Perkins. I am a YouTube person from Australia, right? So I do videos on YouTube about Dungeons & Dragons, also Dungeons there for Dragons, and Dungeons or Dragons. I also do those as well.
Dungeons
So I do
inclusive or dragons?
Yeah, absolutely. Every single conjunction with Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons,
So-
yet dragons.
Dungeons. Yep, dragons.
Today we're going to play some Dungeons, but dragons.
Oh, butt dragons. Oh, no.
But dragons is a different thing.
That is a different thing. That's a bit not safe for work. Let's save that for the after stream chat.
Stream.
Dungeon butt dragons. So on YouTube, what I do is I do a bunch of stuff, right? I do D&D advice. So like, hey, you should do it this way. Trust me, I'm an expert. But I also do really specific module guides. So some of you might have seen my Lost Minds of Phandelver guides out there, where I go, hey, session by session, this is what you do. And I have been told that it has been helpful in alleviating like stressed out dungeon masters. And at the moment, I'm covering Storm King's Thunder. But hey, all my stuff, if you want to learn more about me, I'm over at matthewperkins.net, which is my name and .net. That's how websites work.
Perkins.net. Anyone who knows anything about Dungeons and Dragons knows the name Matthew and the name Perkins, and hopefully the suffix .net is self-explanatory. And if you can read, it's also below your name, below your face.
And if anybody's curious, they're like, oh, hey, someone's out there going, oh my god, is this guy related to Chris Perkins, or like in some kind of weird way, Matt Mercer or Matt Colville? For the second part, that's not how first names work. I don't know how to break this to you. I'm so sorry.
I don't know how you've survived until this point.
But for the second part, am I related to Chris Perkins? Yes, I was made in a lab. He is, I wouldn't say father, but genetically we're identical. He's just maybe
it's a clone situation. It's if you've seen the old movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito, Twins, it's like that. Where it's the same.
I don't think that wasn't a clone situation. They were twins, though, weren't they?
They were twins, but they were genetically enhanced so that Arnold Schwarzenegger got all the good genes, and they took all the bad genes and put them into Danny DeVito.
Can you stop spoiling movies for me, please?
Oh shit! Sorry.
What are you doing? You got to give a. Sorry, guys, I'm sorry about Rob.
Right before we started as well, we were talking about Titanic, and I was like, and Jack dies, and then he was like, "What?
Go!
I did it again! Oh, I'm so sorry." For anyone who's joining from Matthew Perkins's community and doesn't know who I am, but does know who you are, I'm Robert Hartley, GM.
Yeah.
I'm a dungeon master. I'm the DM for Viva la Dirt League, a comedy group on YouTube. You can find them at YouTube. YouTube.com. You might have heard of it. If you search for Viva la Dirt League D&D, you know how to search things. I don't need to tell you how to search things. You found this video. Yeah, I'm a professional dungeon master. You can find me.
We're both doing such a bad job.
We do this for a living. We've both been content creators for years.
Oh man, I'm worried that Mr. YouTube is going to take away our YouTube license, and we're going to have to go on the bootleg YouTube. We'll have to go to Daily Motion.
So you can find us both on YouTube. I have known about your content for longer than I've been making content. I got into D&D about 5 or 6 years ago or something. Started through board games, and then from board games into watching Tabletop with Will Wheaton, and then they played a role-playing game that wasn't D&D, but it was something similar, and I was like, I think that's what D&D is, isn't it? Isn't D&D something like that? And I'd just heard of a guy that was a dungeon master, and he kind of like told me as if it was like shameful. He's like, yeah, I'm a dungeon master.
Yeah.
So I got in touch with him, and I was like, would you run a game for me? And then he ran a game, and I was like instantly hooked. And so I started just ingesting everything that there was to ingest about D&D online about 5 or 6 years ago, which was Critical Role, and Matt Colville's stuff, and your stuff. And it was there. It was probably in the top 5 of the channels that I would watch on the regular. So yeah, I've known about you since before I started pursuing it as a career. And so I'm very grateful to have you on to chat about Dungeons and Dragons. That's right, both of them.
That's my tagline, Dungeons and Dragons, both of them. Dude, that's so flattering because you would have 5 years ago, that would have been like my first few videos where it was like I was working until 11 o'clock at night on Friday nights, and I was like, okay, turn on the camera and just say some words, film it, and edit it in 2 hours so you can go to sleep. Oh my god, I'm tired. Put the video out, Perkins. Put the video out. And like that's just what I was doing, and I didn't know what I was going to talk about each time. I was just putting it out there. And that was the trash that you would have been watching. I'm so sorry.
What I was saying was like there was slim pickings 5 years ago. Is kind of what I was getting at. Really.
Okay.
It wasn't.
Yeah, and now
it wasn't a compliment to you so much as it was about a comment on the industry at the time.
Yeah, the wasteland.
But now that there's just a plethora of everybody who plays D&D. Oof.
Yeah.
So tell me, how long you been playing D&D?
Oh man, I started with remember how D&D Next was out and they were doing like the playtest thing when D&D 5th edition was first starting, and then they released the Player's Handbook and the Monster Manual and the Dungeon Master's Guide like a couple of months apart or a month apart, which is wild. What a wild thing to do. So at that time, I went, man, I don't know. I just moved to a new city. I don't know anybody here. I'm just going to take up a new hobby and just meet some people. So I joined a D&D group, and they taught me how to play.
So why did you join a D&D group? You hadn't played it before? Like, why D&D and not like joining a football group or something? Sport ball,
well,
some sort of thing where you kick a ball with the thing and you put it in the stuff for the points. It's my favorite.
I don't know. I actually don't know why D&D. Like, I'd played a role-playing game before. Like, my older sister had a boyfriend who was a loser, so he introduced us to role-playing games. We played Warhammer like 1st edition when like I was 10 or something. So I knew what it was. Yeah, I genuinely don't know. I've got a creative writing degree, so maybe that's it. I went, I'll be good at this, and then I wasn't.
So you moved to the city you're currently in?
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne, so that's in the bottom right of Australia. Everybody, it's the cool city.
It is the cool city. I like Melbourne. It reminds me of Wellington for the New Zealanders, and it reminded me of Portland, Oregon for the people in the States. It was kind of arty. There's just like art installations around the place. I think it was Melbourne that there was just like an upside down cuboidal cow in a tree somewhere. I think
that sounds about right. I've actually seen a few. Genuinely, this isn't a bit. This is alert. This is not a bit. I have seen multiple cow sculptures pretty recent. I don't know what's going on.
A herd of cow sculptures. Yeah. So you moved to Melbourne. You didn't really know anybody, so you were like, a good way to meet good outgoing folk is the nerdy game of D&D.
Yeah, and I started when I first went going, oh man, I got to meet some people. Like an idiot, I started playing pool at pubs. I'm like, I was just getting demolished. I'm so bad at pool, and every time, like the rule of pool, as opposed to the rule of cool, the rule of pool where like you're playing and then someone comes along and puts like a coin on the side. Just,
and you thought they were tipping you, and you were like, "Oh shit, I'm doing a really good job," and just started pocketing.
Am I not supposed to eat this? No. But no, that would just intimidate the hell out of me. So I'm playing badly. Someone lines up, and I go, "All right, now there's scrutiny," and I would just collapse. I lost literally every game of pool that I ever played.
I lost so much money. I'm in great debt. So you started with pool and realized that wasn't a good way to meet people. And you went along to play some D&D, and it was fifth edition?
Yeah, well, it was a mix of 5th edition and D&D Next, just because we didn't have all the rules for 5th edition at the time.
Yeah, because it was still coming out. It was just like,
weird.
Here, we've released this thing, but not quite released this thing. We're releasing this thing, and you're going to just wait to see how it plays.
And it was great. The problem was that, like, they, like, week to week, my class's abilities would, or like the way I understood the rules would kind of change. And you know how when you're learning how to play D&D, you latch on to certain things. Like you're not going to get every rule as it's flying past you, but there's a few little motes of knowledge. You go, oh, I understand how initiative works. Good, I'll keep this close.
Keep a hold of that now.
Ooh, I understand how an attack roll works. And D&D Next just kept on taking that shit away. It's like, no, I
It's
understood
not
that.
going to be how it works.
Why did it change? It was rough.
What was your first character?
He was oh, good grief. I think his name was Grim Tim, and he was a ranger who was like I had it was all rhyming names all the way down for like my first 10 D&D characters. He was a ranger and he died in the first session, and it was nightmarish. And he died in some situation where, like, looking back, of course I was in a situation where I was not meant to shoot a bow and arrow at the beholder. It was a friendly beholder. I was just like, look, that's a big eyeball. I've seen Lord of the Rings. I know what these guys are up to.
I should shoot this guy.
I'm going to shoot him right in the eyeball. So I did that, and he obliterated me.
The DM thought it was a good idea to throw a beholder at the first level ranger who'd never played before.
Well, he wasn't throwing it at us. I think he was just showing it to us. You know what I mean?
Check out this cool monster that I've just read about.
I threw myself at the beholder.
Right.
That's what happened. But then the DM did something where it was like, okay, and then you guys go downstairs and you find a prison, and he hands me a character sheet, which is like just a pre-gen wizard, and you find this character. And I have to do like a character voice on the fly for this character I've never heard of. And I just started doing like, Sylvester the cat.
Suffering.
I just started doing that. I just did that, and it was like, I'm Graham the Magnificent. It was ridiculous.
And they're like, no, this isn't going to fly. Let's kill him. So we ignore this. We ignore the wizard in this cell and move to the next cell along.
Yeah.
Take that
we look for a more palatable human.
Have you ever played any of the other earlier editions? Or has fifth been your jam the whole time?
Yeah, man. I played, well, here's the thing. When I played as a kid, I don't know what edition I was playing. It might have been third. It might have been second. Either way, I didn't know the rules, right? So I guess it's like Schrodinger's edition. Who cares?
Yeah.
What about you? What was your first character?
My first character was a monk.
Don't say Grim Tim.
No, I'm not copying you. His name was Tim Grimm, and he was a ranger, and I died in the first session because it's on me really. I should have known to not fire an arrow at the ancient red dragon. He was a friendly ancient red dragon. It was just like, oh cool, look at this. No, my
rookie mistake.
So my first character was pre-gen, obviously, because you don't want to waste your first time making characters when you have nothing to go on for how the game is actually played. So I was in a game. It was a one shot that was being run by my friend that had come out to me as a dungeon master, and two of his friends. So it was just the three of us. And one of them was a druid, and the other one, I don't know, maybe a cleric or something. And I was like, what do we need? What's a good party? And they were like, he could be a fighter or a rogue or a monk or this and that and the other. And of course, none of those mean anything to me. I mean, the words mean. I knew what the word fighter meant, but like monk could have just been like, it's a Friar Tuck or something. So I was like, I don't know what do they do? And the way they described monk was, you're kind of like a Jedi with martial arts. And I was like, yeah, that one. I'll do that one, please. And so they printed me out. Description. They printed me out a wood elf monk. And we ran a little one shot. He was kind of making it up as he goes, I think, because we were interrogating someone in a cell for the king. I can't remember why. And he was in a chair, and then I said, I'm going to talk to my friend or something in what's this language here? Elfish or Sylvan? Yeah. Oh, okay, whatever. I'm going to say blah, 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 blah. And then he responds to me as the NPC, and I'm pretty sure that he just forgot that I was speaking in a different language, because when I went... Was he listening to me? I was speaking in a different language, and then he goes, "Oh, yep." He gives you a wink, and and then he starts to transform into it, and he turned it into a doppelganger fight. I'm pretty sure he was just making it up on the spot from one of those old DM tricks have been like, "Oh fuck," they've pointed something out.
Yeah, dude.
So there's there for a reason now.
Dude, that's
Yeah.
so in spoilers, everybody, for the Lost Minds of Fandel, but the adventure that's been out for like 40,000 years. There's a doppelganger in there, right? There's a doppelganger in there somewhere. And in my guides, I just suggest, hey, keep the doppelganger in your back pocket. You might not need it.
Yeah.
But it is your get out of jail free card. If you mess up, it is like power word retcon. Just go, it was a doppelganger.
And he was a doppelganger the whole time. And then they're like, oh, come on, he wasn't really a doppelganger. And you're like, no, it says in the guide.
It's in the module. Here's a picture of him.
Here's a picture of a doppelganger. Yeah, so we had this doppelganger fight, and as soon as he starts to describe, his head gets longer, his blue skin, and his arms get longer and stuff. And of course, it means nothing to me, and I'm just ready to start a fight. But one of the other guys, he goes, "Are you really throwing doppelgangers at us at first level?" And so it was a relatively easy fight. I think he like heavily nerfed them because there was 3 of them or something.
Yeah.
And they all burst out of their respective cells. The cells' doors just came flying open, and I was like, "Oh, what?" And so I start like looking into that, like what was the reason for behind after we win the fight? I'm like, why did the doors burst open? What magic did they have? And of course, he's just making shit up on the spot. So he just had the doors open so that he could use them in the fight and not just have them. Yeah. I'm a doppelganger in a cell. but of course it means something to me now because it's a canon world. So I'm like investigating stuff that he's like, just can we go down this way, please? It was very fun. I super loved it. I went home and found some knockoff PDF of the Player's Handbook online where I could read the whole thing for free, and I just read it.
Yeah,
just read it like cover to cover as a PDF. And I kept like going back and being like, oh, my elf character could be called this, and this could be his background, and where would he have come from, and what was his story, and how did he end up here, and what monastery did he, and I just all this sort of stuff. And I pestered him for a while, like, are we going to play again? Are we going to play again? And he just kept ghosting me. so I eventually found a board game cafe and started playing more regularly with a new campaign, new character. I was playing a gnomish wizard, and then like 12 sessions into that campaign, the guy who's one of my best friends now, and it turns out this is rather a habit of his. He gets like a few sessions in and then goes, I need a break. He doesn't have this. He's got super good ideas. I really love the campaign worlds that he comes up with, but he doesn't have the staying power to actually like see them through because life gets in the way and he just needs a break from it. And he's like, yeah. So he said to me, he could see that I was super passionate about it and went, do you want to take over as DM? You want to give it a go? So like I'd played for a couple of months at this point, off and on. And then I bought all of the books that existed at the time, which were the 3 core books. This was before Xanathars even came out, and I just basically read them all cover to cover, and started a campaign.
I'm impressed that you have that ability. I'm impressed you have that ability just to be able to read the books as a book. You know what I mean? Because I cannot get my mind to pass the information in these books. Like I have to read the same paragraph multiple times and be like, okay, this is 20 feet and then there's 10 feet above and there's a door over here, but these guys are slaves and this guy's a slave master, so if these guys do, and it just becomes like a jumble in my brain. And it just takes me like 2 weeks to read one of these books.
The only book that I hadn't read, that I still to this day hadn't read cover to cover, is the Dungeon Master's Guide, because I could read the monster manual, I could just look at the cool monsters, I could think about where they would go in my world and stuff. I read the Player's Handbook multiple times and I know it back to front now. Kept cross-referencing it while I'm watching Critical Role, just stopping every time Keyleth uses a spell and being like, oh, what's that spell do? And looking it up and being like, oh, cool, it works like this, that's going to be good. And then start it and they immediately get it wrong. And I was one of those rules lawyer jerks in the comment being like, that's not how Windwalk works or whatever. And blah, blah, blah.
I think you'll actually find.
I think it takes a minute to cast though, doesn't it? Why are they forgetting this? So because I'd like stop and start Critical Role while I'm reading these books, like that's one of the reasons that I know all the rules like off the top of my head. But when it came to the Dungeon Master's Guide, I would read like a paragraph and then it would go and it would just spark the imagination of being like, oh, that's cool, and I'd go off and like start world building, and then I'd be like, oh, I need to finish that chapter on the plains, and I'd read about the Feywild, and I'd be like, oh, what would my Feywild be like? And I go off and I just can't get through it because I just keep going off to build my own world.
That's really fun. I find that whenever I get inspired by one of the books, even like the modules that are prescriptively saying this is this definitive location, and in this definitive location there are these features, right? I find I get a lot of power from just ignoring it deliberately. If it goes, this is the way this rule works, or this class gets this ability, or in this room there are 5 dragons, I go, no, there's not. I don't think so. And when I just make like an empty space, and in that space I go like, now I can do whatever I want. It's great. I carved this bit out of the book. I tore out those pages. I ate them, ingested their power.
It was probably a bit overkill thinking about it in hindsight. Probably.
I go through a lot of books.
Really could do cross-reference that for the video that I'm making about how to run the campaign. Can't remember what it says to actually do in the book at this point. Should have photocopied them at the very least.
Oh man, I should really buy those PDFs.
I should really get my... I ate my monitor that one time that I got D&D Beyond. It was difficult, but I was committed.
That's wild.
When you're... So you've done these sort of campaign, how to run Lost Mines and how to run... So you're doing Storm Kings at the moment?
Yeah, I'm stuck in the middle of Storm Kings.
Is this because whenever you're DMing, you only ever run modules? You don't do your homebrew your own stuff?
No, it's actually the opposite. I find it very easy to do homebrew, and the reason that I'm making guides for modules is that I'm trying to appeal to the people that go, look, I just need someone to tell me how to do this. This book tells me exactly everything I need to do.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to do what the book says. So what I'm doing, here's my mission, is I'm going to those people, those rigid kind of nervous dungeon masters, people that don't feel confident changing stuff, and I'm trying to give them the confidence to go, hey, fuck this book. I'm going to do whatever I want. Whenever you cut something from one of these books, you get more powerful. And I'm trying to help people turn the modules into a kind of homebrew campaign. And then after they finish that campaign, hey, just try a 10-session homebrew campaign, and just see how it feels. Yeah, I don't know. I just think that homebrew is where it's at.
I fully agree with you. There is the one sort of sticking point I have against that though is that I've never run or played in a full campaign module because the only times that I've played in them, by about 4 sessions in, people have starting to diverge into homebrew. So I've twice now, on 2 separate occasions, I have been a player in Storm King's Thunder. And I have started in Nightstone, and we've dealt with the goblins in the bell tower and stuff, and we've gone across the drawbridge to the broken bridge to the castle, and then every time we leave Nightstone to go off to the forest to get the people back from the goblin cave or whatever it is, it starts to just people take it off into their own thing. It turns into this. So I have no idea what happens in the rest of Storm King's Thunder. And same with Lost Mines of Phandelver. I know there's you start off and there's an overturned cart and there's goblins attack and then by the time that goblin fight's over, I'm like, okay, I'm done. We're moving on to a different homebrew. You're just diverging this into your own thing.
Look, I would kind of challenge that a little bit and say that I don't think there is a way to run these books according to the book. I don't think you can run them without going into some kind of homebrew. If you were to be that nitpicky person that we were describing earlier with Critical Role and saying oh no, that's not how it works, it's always going to be wrong according to the book. Someone will be like, wait, no, this character isn't, this NPC, this character is meant to be the villain. She's not meant to help you. It's like, well, yeah, but in the moment, it was more useful to use that villain as a helpful person. So I did that. You're always going to mix stuff around.
Yeah.
And the Dungeon Master that doesn't cut stuff and doesn't mix stuff around, doesn't change stuff and doesn't do just a little bit of homebrew, I think they're going to struggle.
It's a interesting one, isn't it? Homebrew modules rather, because I could imagine writing a campaign setting far easier than I could imagine writing a module, because the way that I play, I don't know how to write something in advance. I know the general story. I don't know how to make enough of a choose your own ending kind of a story where the choices actually matter and you're being in a sandbox, and how do you write for all of those eventualities, which is a weird thing for me to admit on stream because I'm currently writing a side quest for a module.
Yeah, well,
but it's probably because of that I've realized how difficult it is.
And it's the problem is the word module and what that word actually means. The module being like, okay, here is the situation and here's every possible feasible thing that we want to let happen. And we're going to try and give you a little bit of something that you can use in every situation. What if they approach from this direction? What if they approach this NPC? What if they have this kind of character in the party? What if they want to do this? You can't do that. That's trying to write a story in a way that could be interpreted by like machine learning, you know, where it just runs through every kind of possibility. That's not how stories work. And that's not how you communicate something in a technical document. Like if you were trying to learn how to use a piece of software and it was written in a way like a Dungeons and Dragons module, you would be better off eating that book like your boy Matty P, you know, because it's useless to you. It's useless. You get more nutrition out of the pages. So I think that the problem actually comes from what a module is, but Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons, they're not the people that are going to break that mold. And even if the mold does get broken and improved upon by some indie developer or by some individual creator, like that module mold is part of their brand, and that's never going to change.
Yeah, it's not. Those sorts of things are not the thing that we can see coming in 5.5 or whatever it is. It's not going to be like, oh, by the way, we're not doing modules anymore. Or rather, we're doing modules, but they're all going to be digitized, and they're all going to have like a Detroit Become Human style choose your own ending where you've got like a million different options and your choices actually seem to matter and things. We're gonna write a single module that has a branching tree of 100 different options.
But the modules that do like there are little bits of good bits in all the modules. And those like the things that spark your imagination, and those are the bits that leave room for the dungeon master to do their own shit. And that's why I'm trying to encourage people, hey, just believe in yourself. You can do it, you know. You don't need anybody's permission to do something cool at your table. And like the person that wrote the module, my biological father, Chris Perkins, he doesn't know you and he doesn't know your players, right? The only person that knows your players is you. Chris Perkins could suggest anything. It might suck for your dudes, you know. I don't know. You make a decision, try something, see how it goes, get some feedback, and then adjust. It's fun.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much the soundbite that I'll take from this whole episode and just put out there.
Oh, are we recording? Is this live?
I just wanted to trick you into giving me one soundbite that I can use, and then the rest of it goes in the bin.
Good. That's good. That's good.
Just choose something, try it, and see what happens. Sweet. Good.
Hey,
Good.
I got a question for you. What do you want to see in 5.5? Hey, Robert Hartley, GM, I just had a question for you. What is something that you want to see in 5.5?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Should I pose the question again? Let me do it again.
Yeah,
let's
do this again. I don't know why.
Okay, let me check it out.
We've had 2 warm-ups for this now. My answer better be fucking brilliant.
You're going to have such a good answer for this. I'm so excited for you. What if your answer is just like, nah, I don't know. Not sure. No, I don't
5.5. What are you talking about? What is anything about it?
What's
so
that?
profesh.
Okay, here we go. Oh, Rob, let me interrupt for you. I can't speak.
Good. You had such a lot of time to prepare.
All right, and in the end,
first
I blew
time,
it.
first take.
Okay.
First take, everybody.
Right,
first take. 1 week.
Okay.
Take wonders.
Okay, pick up. Hey, Rob,
This
here's
is
a
how
quick
I was
question
standing,
for you.
I think, wasn't it? I was like this, I think. What was I?
Okay, everybody, get in position.
I think I was...
Okay, everybody's in position. Everybody hit your mark. Here we go, everybody.
It's going to be a seamless edit.
Okay, good. Hey, Rob, here's a question for you. What do you want to see in 5.5?
Wow, what a wonderful question. It's very thoughtful. I hadn't jeez, I'd never thought 5.5. Well, I'm disappointed that it's not 6th edition. Because
Cop out.
Because there's just so much that I want changed about D&D that would require a fundamental new edition to change it.
Really?
Yeah. It's not going to change in 5th edition, but what I would love to see changed is the removal of modifiers from stats as 2 separate things. Because at the moment, you make your character, You roll your
Yeah.
stats. You use those stats to work out what your modifier is. You ignore what the stats are for the rest of the game. And because of the bounded accuracy thing,
Yeah, that derivative crap.
the bounded accuracy means that like everything fits within plus or minus 5, and a plus 5 is fantastic, and a negative 5 is absolute garbage. But in reality, that's only a swing of 10 numbers, and the dice roll gives you 20, a swing of 20 numbers. And so somebody with a plus 5 strength, a barbarian who is literally superhuman with his strength, strongest person in the world, and somebody who has a 3 in strength could have an arm wrestle, and about 1 in 8 1 in 8 times, as a math nerd, I did the numbers on it once. About 1 in 8 times, the person with a 3 strength is going to beat the person with a 20 strength on a straight strength roll contest.
I am realizing now, Rob, that like, what a stupid question for me to ask you. Like, of course you're going to give me a math answer.
Yeah.
What do you want to change? Numbers. In fact, not even 5.5, 6.
Yeah, I want 6th edition because I want the numbers changed. So I want the numbers changed. I just want the stats to be, because we can still have bounded accuracy, just increase the bounds a little. I want it to be basically the numbers are the stats. So if you've got an 18, you just take off 10 and you've got a plus 8 modifier. Because that way it also gets rid of the thing that irks me about the fact that a 16 is the same as a 15. Oh, my strength has gone up to a 16. Sorry, the 16 and the 17 are the same. I've got up to a 17 strength. So what? It doesn't change anything. Technically speaking, you can jump 1 foot further. But, yeah, very little else. And then there's other things that are fundamental that I'd love to see changed, like the hit points. I'd love to see some sort of stamina as well. Like this is your stamina pool, this is your hit point pool. So that there's if you get one shot in the head at level 20 by a town guard with a point blank crossbow, you can still die. So there's still like that. That's going to go straight into your hit points and you're going to die. So it's not like, I can take on a town guardman anywhere from level 4 onwards because they can't possibly, even with a D10 and a crit, they can't possibly take me down. It's things like that that I'd love to see changed.
Rob, you're turning it into Dark Souls. Give me that green stamina bar so I can roll around. Let the guard kill me in a couple of hits.
Yeah, I want to have the threat of danger from being sneak attacked from behind, like right away, like something that can like some damage just comes straight off your health, and some damage like chips away at your stamina and your luck and everything before it gets like 2 different hit point pools, like they use in Starfinder and things. That's what I'd like to see, but I feel like it's just not going to be D&D if they do that. So I'll probably just want to find a different system if I really want that sort of realism.
Yeah, they're going to go less, fewer numbers. They're going to do letters only, I think. I'm trying to think about what I want to see. I want to see like less ambiguity or like redundancy in the language. Like, why do I have a character level, but then I also have spell levels?
Fuck,
like,
the number.
Sorry, my dude.
Yeah, I just want them. I want anyone at Wizards of the Coast to open a fucking thesaurus. Is what I want for 5th edition. You've got levels and levels. You've got a feature called 2-weapon fighting, and you've got an actual combat ability called 2-weapon fighting. You've got DM inspiration and bardic inspiration. You've got an attack, but that's a different thing to the attack with a small a. You've got just so many things where you're like, just name it something different. Just a different name.
Something else. And like, here's the thing: it's a fantasy setting. My dickheads, you can just make up words. Nobody cares. Like, we are conditioned to go, oh, that's called a Bogart. Fine, just do that. Who cares?
Wait, when you take the flibble action on your turn, you can attack twice. Like, what?
Man, I've been flibbled to death.
Shit, man, I'm all out of dingle slots. I'm all out of 3rd level dingle slots.
D&D is cancelled.
D&D is cancelled
forever.
I would so things that I would like to see in 5th edition that could actually be a 5.5 change, because it won't be fundamental and it will stay sort of backwards compatible. Just new monsters that have more interesting abilities. Too much of 5th edition in a nutshell. Simplified. Sum up with one word, it'd be simplified. So like everything was simplified to make it easier to access. Everything was taken right back. No modifiers for this and that and the other. Just an advantage, disadvantage, and that's it. No like complicated stat blocks where the monster can impose this or this condition or that condition. but they just went too far with so much of it, in that it's like so many of the monsters stat blocks are like, it has a multi-attack with a bite and a claw, and it does piercing damage and a bit of fire damage or something. And are you immune or resistant to fire? No, so it's just the same amount. So it's just damage. It does damage to you. It hits you with a claw and does damage. It hits you with a bite and does damage. Now it's your turn.
That is very interesting. I wonder if somebody were willing, who isn't me because I've eaten all my, if someone were willing to like deep dive into the monster manual and the other stat blocks, because they're around like 600, maybe 700 individual stat blocks, including NPCs in all the books. And I know this because I made like bigger stat blocks for all of them. Like I made like a different layout for it. I wonder how many of them are functionally identical. If you go, look, fire damage, lightning damage, bludgeoning damage, all that stuff is just damage. And like, even if you allow like a little bit of variance, like how many of them, the only difference is like a point of armor or something like that. I reckon there's a lot of redundancy.
Yeah, I reckon there would be. If you took away the flavor text from above all the stat blocks, and you just look at the stat blocks, and you give yourself like a variance of like +or-2 armor, plus or minus a couple of dice of health, and a couple of dice of damage, there'd be so many of the stat blocks that are just the same monster, which can make fights just boring. And that's one of the reasons why combat is such a slog in D&D sometimes, that like people aren't encouraged to use the battlefield to their advantage, to move around, to tell you what, thinking of it just now, one of the things that I think would encourage more dynamic combat is doing something with attack of opportunity, because I find that so many players are so frightened to move because of that one free attack. They're like, well, if I move they get a free attack, so I'm just going to stay here. It's like, oh yeah, it might be more interesting if I go and stand behind that tree, or if I go and climb up onto that rock to get a better advantage, or if I'm like, if you know, you get that, you never get the sort of cinematic appearance in D&D of that you do in like swashbuckler films, where the guy like hops up onto a table as he's being pushed backwards, and then he jumps up onto the chandelier and swings down, and the other guy comes chasing him across the back. You never get any of that because of attacks of opportunity. Everybody's frightened of attacks of opportunity.
And what's fun is like that specific kind of fiction. That is the fiction of D&D that I want to tell. You know what I want to do? I want to play Robin Hood Men in Tights. You know, I want to swing off the chandeliers.
I was literally thinking of that movie when I was talking about that swashbuckler scene.
Such a good movie.
So good, man. Such a good one.
Blinken fighting the pole. Like they're all D&D characters.
And it goes back to him and he's like carved it away.
Sorry. I watch that movie like once a year. For some reason it's on, maybe it's the same in New Zealand, but in Australia, for some reason, that movie plays every Christmas Eve, and I don't know why, and I watch it every time.
We're men, manly men, women in tights.
It's great. Hey, would you ever run a musical adventure? Would you ever run like an adventure? Ooh. So like not necessarily where, let me like couch this a little bit. Not necessarily where you're singing or the players are singing, but like a game where the conceit is that it is being told through the medium of a musical. And so you can hit all those story beats and you could describe like the set, you know what I mean? And like maybe there are stagehands every now and then that show up.
I can imagine I would really enjoy to play in that sort of a game, but running one, I think I wouldn't be the sort of DM for that. I kind of, over the years of doing it professionally, I've learned where my strengths lie, and I don't like Dead a Gamer is a good friend of mine. I believe you know him. Yes. Oh, he's in the chat. Look. Shit, he's in the chat. Hey, he's not a good friend of mine. Oh. Fuck, damn it. I'm not meant to say nice things about him when he can hear me. He's a wonderful DM, and he has a really good sense of doing like cartoony kind of styles where things will just like a kobold will pop up and give you some merchandise and then like pop away. I'm not good at that kind of thing because I'm too in the realism side of that spectrum. Like I'm not good at I'm not good with like slapsticky comedy kind of DMing where cartoony things can just happen. All of my shit tends to be like explainable and like people have slapstick moments in my games, but it's always because of other things that are happening within the verisimilitude of the world, if you know what I mean.
Oh no, you said the word, you said the V word. I hate the V word. I hate the V word.
It's one of
I
the
avoid
things
it.
that I enjoy most about your videos is how much we
Oh,
differ
really?
on that particular topic. Yeah.
Yeah. You got, yeah, chat. You might not realize this just from like the way that Rob and I are palling around. We can't stand each other.
Yeah.
Different
Fucking.
styles.
Oof.
Never shall the two meet. Don't cross the DM streams. No, I'm joking. We are palling around. I don't do realism, partly because I can't, and partly because it doesn't interest me. So I got a writing background, right? My degree, as useful it is creative writing.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell very kind of story-like stories, and part of the conceit of enjoying a story is you never read it and go, "Oh, it's so real." At least not for me. Like whenever I read a story, the things I enjoy about it are identifying things in the craft. I'm like, oh, it's cool how they chose to do it this, or they've got these characters positioned this way. Like I'm always in media analysis mode. Um, so I kind of step away from the realism and start to play with the form a little bit. Like I ran a homebrew campaign where we had a framing device on it, where we weren't actually playing one to one with what was happening physically present at the table. It wasn't like, okay, your character does this and my character does this and blah blah blah. But man, I'm explaining this really badly. I'm floundering. That's okay. We'll get to it. The framing device was.
I'll edit it to make you look really, really
Oh, good.
good
Okay,
with
fireworks
wordings.
now. Okay, and then have Chris Perkins come in and say,
Good idea, son.
and then go away. Thanks, Dad. So the framing device was there are a group of storytellers sitting around a fire, and they were telling the story about the party. You know what I mean? And there was a different narrator each time. So we had an unreliable kind of situation because they each had different perspectives on it. So when this first narrator, I can't even remember his name because we played this like maybe 3 years ago. It was a homebrew thing. This first narrator, whenever he was describing things, he would pay attention to different things in the story. So when we were playing D&D, it was like characters were maybe like a little bit more aggressive or something like that, or they all had like similar vocal affectations because that's the way that the storyteller spoke. But when somebody else took over, they told the story in a different way, and they focused on maybe like, oh, they always described the colors of things really vividly because they're a painter. And when I was playing with that form, I got to do some crazy stuff. And by the way, this didn't work. I tried this and it didn't work in the way that I wanted, but I tried it and I always try and do it. Always try and do stuff. So I had this way where it was like, after a while, after we all got to know these different storytellers, each storyteller picked somebody that was their favorite character in the story, and I gave that player like a special ability. It says, look, if you want this storyteller to jump in and correct something about the story, be like, oh, no, it was actually happened this way. Finnegan actually did this. They could kind of use fiat points to kind of change something. So, for example, the storyteller that was really focused on details, right? And like really getting everything precise. If you were his favorite character, then you could use your thing once per session to say, he'd go, no, Finnegan didn't do that. He didn't have 5 fingers on his hand. He had 4 fingers, you know what I mean? Or something like that. So you could change the number of something. So there would be more treasure or less treasure, or more monsters or less monsters. And somebody else could change like the color or description of something. Somebody else could change like the emotion of a situation. And it was just the fun exercise of setting up this framing device and then giving the players tools to like interact with it, but it didn't work. I think I'd probably have to try it maybe once or twice more, in different ways to get it to be seamless. But given the fact that I couldn't even explain it,
it sounds. Once I've edited you into a cohesive manner, it sounds like it was a great idea. What was it about?
I think it was a good idea. Look, here's the thing: even though it didn't work, I think it was a good idea. I think that like if you ever measure ideas by whether they work out or not, then you're gonna get a lot of bad information and bad feedback from the results of things. So what didn't work about it was, how often do you give your players a magical item that you think is really cool, and then they go, "Oh, cool," and then they never use it because they've already got a bunch of other abilities.
All the fucking time. They've got
so that's what happened.
A bag of holding full of stuff.
Yeah. Bag of losing, more like it. That's a joke you can use on your famous Twitch streams, my friend. Don't worry, people will love it.
Thanks, man. Thanks. You sure?
You're welcome.
You sure? can
Yeah,
use
no,
it.
you can have it. You
Cool,
can have it. He has
cool,
one to it.
cheers.
Yeah, okay,
Cheers,
good.
I'll definitely use it.
But yeah, that's what happened. I gave them a mechanic that I told them was really special, but then I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the way you're meant to introduce players to homebrew mechanics that are exciting and cool, you have to incentivize them somehow, or like you have to demonstrate it in some way.
Yeah.
And that's a skill. That's like a little bit of a discipline that I'm still kind of working on. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter how good my idea is. I need to teach my players how to implement it and show them that, hey, you'll love it. You'll love it if you just try it. I'm like Dora the Explorer. Try it. You'll like it. It's sweet.
Is that one of her expressions?
I don't know. I think it might be. Does she? She's got a map.
Hey, try it. You'll like it.
Yeah, I don't know. Somebody help me.
All of like I've got a huge. If you draw the Venn diagram of like the Robert Hartley fandom and the Dora Explorer fandom, it's basically a circle. Everybody in the chat right now is just going off on. Yeah, that is all of her.
Good.
Yeah, they got just so many. All of the chat. I can't even keep up with the chat. It's just scrolling past so much with all of the Dora Explorer.
I just checked, Rob. You're losing a lot of followers. Like it's really. Really tanking.
Somehow I'm losing subscribers as well. How are they unsubscribed? That's not a thing that can. Speaking,
I hear something in the background. Is somebody stealing your car?
So what would be the? How would somebody's brain? They're like, I'm really not liking this stream. I better find out where Rob lives and go to his house and steal his car. That'll show him.
To everybody watching. This energy is what I do. If you ever want to come by my Twitch stream, anybody, it's just this all the time.
It's a lot of fun. Chaos. It is a lot of fun to promote you a little bit to my particular group of peoples. Matthew Perkins is currently, and I have to full name you. There's something about your name that means that I have to every time.
Go ahead.
Matthew Perkins is currently like within 100 or 200 people of 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. And there are about that many people watching, so go across to mattperkins.net, go across to youtube.com/c/MatthewPerkins.dm, whatever it is. You know how YouTube works.
It is Matthew Perkins, MatthewPerkins.net. The full thing.
It's
Matthew Perkins.
Matthew Perkins. And if you go there and subscribe, you won't be disappointed with his content, and you might get him ever so closer to that 10,000 goal. What happens when you get 10,000? Do you get any sort of prize from YouTube?
Well, what happens at at 100k, as I'm sure you know, they send you a solid silver, sterling silver play button.
Crap! I just accidentally. How silly of me!
Rob.
Damn it! I'm such a klutz. I accidentally just. I didn't mean to at all. I just tipped over my green screen, and I'm gonna have to put it down now. Sorry, this is such a.
I will remind you.
This is such.
I will remind you that I can't see you because I turned off the stream to save bandwidth. So all I hear is the radio play. This farce that you're putting on.
But I'm being very descriptive because I am a storyteller.
You're so good.
I accidentally knocked over my green screen and accidentally shut off my silver play button.
I know.
Behind the screen there.
But here's the thing. When you hit 10k, they don't send you like silver. Instead, they have to send you legally, when you ever hit a milestone, they have to send you a triangle. So what I'm hoping is that they're going to send me one of those like super hot Dorito chips for like 10k. That would be really fun.
just in a single one, and it's in a really nice
Dorito.
box. It's in like a really nice box with like padding so it doesn't get broken.
Yeah, and the good thing is if Porch Pirates steal a super hot chip, I'm not even mad because I just imagine them going, ha, free Dorito, and then them shitting themselves to death for the next 3 days. Got him. Does
it come with like a note or like a certificate of some kind from YouTube? Not. Just a blank box. Just
a single chip. Like they send the single chip like a threat. Like a horse head. Keep going. There's more to come.
1,000, if you can remember back that far, when you hit 1,000, what was it? Was it Dairy Lee Triangle? Is it cheese triangle? What was it? When do they send you the instrument, the triangle? Do they?
The instrument, the triangle.
Send you
they actually just. Here's the thing. They actually sent me a text message. They just sent me the MIDI file of ding. I'm like, oh, thanks. That was them hitting the triangle.
They
Because they've only
recorded
got one.
themselves tinging it, and it wasn't even a video file of them doing it. It was just the sound of them doing it.
Yeah. That was good.
Mario's actually got Dorito emotes in the chat.
Oh wow!
People are trying
Great,
to find.
Good job.
People are trying to find triangle-themed emoji. Domingo the Pilgrim. They send you a party hat.
Oh, brilliant! Thank you. Hey, I've really enjoyed you got good folk here. And has anybody here ever come over on like one of Rob's raids whenever he's raided me, and then you just see me go, oh no, there's 70 people here now. What am I gonna do? Absolutely pack myself? Because normally, I was saying to Rob before the stream, normally I don't have the viewers available. Like I don't see that number. It scares the crap out of me, so I turn it off. But then when Rob raids, I've got a big pop-up said, Robert Hartley, GM, is raiding you with 70,000 people. And I just start weeping. Just bold-faced weeping. I'm in terror.
I think you might be mistaking me for the time that Critical Role raided you. They have the 70,000 views.
Right, sorry. I get you too confused.
I just have the 70.
Okay. That's right. Well.
Can you imagine if Critical Role actually raided people? Can you imagine the streams they'd be able to support with like 170,000 people, whatever?
Well, I'd like to think that Critical Role, raided in a fashion. They raided Matt Colville, right? Like they boosted him like 4 years in natural growth. Don't you reckon? Like he just got to skip the queue, and good for him. Because they had a blog post about him ages ago, and he was so tied into all of their marketing stuff and their whole little circle.
All right. You're I'm enjoying that's another, since we're talking about Critical Role, that's another thing you can see on Matt Perkins's website. You do weekly recaps for the Critical Role season, the one that's currently going, which I'm finding very useful. Because they are like 3 to 4 hours every week, and sometimes you can't watch them all in one cut. So you gotta split them up and watch it a bit, and then you're doing your ironing or something. Like, what the fuck did I say? Why did I choose ironing of all of the house chores that I do? I haven't ironed a thing in like a year. I don't iron things. I could have chosen anything out of vacuuming. I do vacuuming. Ironing's the first chore to mind. Apparently, it's like when people say think of a tool, and you're like thinking of a hammer. So,
yeah. Yeah, here's the thing. I see you comment on those things, and you always go like, "Oh, I'm so glad that you're doing this because I missed this bit and I missed that bit." I'm the same way. Critical Role's like 4 hours long. Oh my god, 4 hours long? Are you kidding? I can't even read one of these books all the way through, and you want to watch 4 hours of people I don't know playing D&D and remembering stuff. So when I watch casually, I'm the same way. I miss stuff all the time. So now what I do is like every Friday, which Friday in Australia is when it airs, I watch it live, and I take notes the whole time. I'm like tippity tap, writing down every single thing that happens. So I'm like a spy, except publicly I'm a bad spy.
Really bad spy if you're actively taking notes in the corner of the cafe with the trilby on and the glasses. He's got his newspaper in front of him, and he's got tippity tapping.
But the fun thing is that I pay an artist to illustrate 10 drawings of every episode. So I pay him like $50 US for 10 drawings. And they're like quick little 10-minute sketches. He does a great job. And so what I do with my narration when I recap the episode and then speculate about what's happening later, is that those are animated onto a book. So it's like the pictures are being drawn in front of you, like movie magic. It's I don't know. It's just something like to help you visually piece together what's happening.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about those. Like, do you choose the bits that while you're watching it, you're like, oh, I want my animator to animate this scene or this character, or do you just like say, hey, give me 10, and your animator is also a Critical Role fan and just chooses?
Well, he's really good. I'm sure that you agree. You've had this experience with outsourcing stuff. Is the people that you want to hire and outsource stuff to are people that can make their own decisions. And people that can like be introspective and like reflect on their own decisions and adjust. And my artist, he is at Perf Draws, PERF Draws, on Instagram. My artist does such a great job of making his own decisions. He picks the moments, and sometimes I will give him feedback on each drawing, say like, hey, you did a lot of, I don't know, you drew a lot of characters, like faces and stuff and dialogue. Just break it up and like maybe give me a couple of drawings of just a setting. Or if there's an item, I'd like to see just a drawing of an item just to break it up a bit. And he's giving me too much, right? He's giving me 10 drawings. I can only fit 8 or so in.
Yeah.
So there's already a little bit of editorial decision on my part, trying to decide that kind of stuff.
And then the book that they're projected onto, is that you in your hands doing your little dice and stuff?
My hands. Yeah, it's this book here. So like I just laid it out on like a witchy table, and then I just used movie magic to sort it out. What's really cool, my brother's like a filmy kind of person, very, very artistic, and film is his chosen medium. So I'm like, hey bro, can I like, here's a budget of like maybe $400. Let's go to an op shop, like a secondhand store, buy a bunch of witchy stuff, and let's try and make like a cool set and just get like half hour of like dynamic footage with like a smoke machine and candles and like dice rolling across the table of this book, so that I can animate on top of it. So I think we're going to do that like in a month or so. I think it'll be really fun.
I'm looking forward to it. Since we're on the topic of like YouTube and things, tell me about like what got you into making YouTube stuff. Did you do anything before the D&D YouTube stuff, or was that like...
God, no, man. No, not at all. I just wanted a hobby. I just wanted a hobby.
And we're like, I can make videos about D&D.
Yeah, you know how it is, man. Like you, like if you're working a full-time job, as I'm sure a lot of people are, you just got to have something to, you know, be able to occupy a different muscle in your brain. And I was struggling to find something. I was like, oh man, I don't know what I'm doing with my time. I'm just playing video games. You know what I mean? I'm not even enjoying it. So my wife was like, hey, I've got a friend who he started a motorcycle blog, and now he's the biggest motorcycle blogger in Australia, and it's become his full-time job. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's really exciting. And I wasn't starting YouTube with the goal of making this my job.
Yeah.
But I figured, you know, it's never going to take off unless I actually do it.
Yeah.
And in the process, Rob, man, I've learned so many new skills. I couldn't do video stuff before. I couldn't edit video. I didn't know anything about audio. I didn't own any of this gear. I've literally, over the past 3 years of having my YouTube channel, completely transformed my life as far as my skill set. If anybody out there is going, I think I want to take this dive into insert any hobby here, any discipline, anything creative, I would encourage you just to do it and let yourself do a crap job for as long as it takes until you start doing a good job, because eventually you get there, right? Like you've probably learned heaps about video production from the Viva La Dirt League experience, right?
Yeah.
And I bet when you first started doing it, I bet you probably embarrassed yourself with a bunch of stupid ideas or like stupid suggestions. It's like, hey, that's not how cameras work, Rob.
Well, thankfully, when I first started out acting, I'd had that experience for sure. But I was, I've been an actor since I was like 13 or something, and I've definitely had the experiences on my first auditions and first sets and things that I finally started getting jobs and stuff, where I had to be kind of helped to understand that that's not how these things work, or this isn't. Yeah, you can't do things like that. Or whatever. Yeah,
that's so funny. I knew you were an actor. For some reason, I thought you were a stage actor. But of course, you could be a film actor. Like
I started as both. I did stage work in the UK from the age of like 13 to 15ish, but then I got an agent and started getting screen work from about 15ish. Minor roles and extra work and just like nothing, just basically nothing. I got a big part in one episode of a British sitcom, and then they cancelled the series, and I was like, great! I would have been a big part of the next season, because I was like tied into the story in a bunch of ways, and I was like, this is my big break. I'm gonna make it as an actor. On 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, everybody around the world is going to hear about me.
No, Rob, that's so sad.
It's probably for the best. And the funny thing is, it's happened twice in my life. I've been the killing blow on 2 different series. I've been I've been a side character, a secondary character
Yeah.
that in the finale of the season was like tied into a big way, so that I would become a main character of the next season, and then they cancelled the season on two different
Rob,
TV shows at two different times in my life.
You're the extra of death. You're the extra of death.
I am the touch of death to any TV, which is probably one of the reasons I gave up acting in like 2017 and went back to university to study a real job. And you can't see me, but I did air quotes.
Okay.
And I studied mathematics and discovered D&D about the same time, and then graduated with a degree in maths at the same time as my D&D career took off, and I was like, oh, I can do D&D full time. That's
great.
That's not useful for either of my acting degree or my maths degree, but it's kind of half useful from both. I've definitely learned things from both that I'm applying.
Yeah, I'm part-time at the moment. I still work my day job. I do because I do page layout. I'm a typesetter, so I do design of text, which actually kind of works well with D&D, right? Like, because they're these big, beautiful books, and I know how to make them. I probably should have, if I was going to come on a podcast or like a Twitch stream, I probably should have had something that I've made nearby.
I just can't can't get the fucking guests.
I made Explorer's Guide to Wild... No, I didn't.
Props.
No, so I've made a couple of like D&D books out there. I made Galder's Gazetteer. I was the layout designer for that book, which was published by Zipperon Games. So that's kind of like a cool crossover. Like, you've got your crossover of acting and math with D&D, and I've got my crossover with graphic design and the fact that D&D has a lot of books.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. I should talk to you sometime about fonts, because I don't know anything about them, and it always bothers me when I'm like, I don't know what font to use. I'll just pick one randomly off this list, and then I hate it, and I'm like, I hate this font, but I'm committed to it now.
Where is this book? I'm looking around my room. I can't find this book anywhere.
I'll just pretend I've got some tech goblins, so we can go to a Be Right Back screen, and you can find the book.
No, I actually think it's under my monitor. I don't think it's coming out.
It's under your monitor. Oh, I saw a picture of it the other day. You had a big stack of books holding up your monitor, right?
Yeah, I got about 50 books stacked on my monitor. It's like, it's half my height. You know what I mean? It's half my height, stacked full of books with a monitor on the top. I tagged it "The War Between OH&S and D&D."
That's right. You couldn't get like just anything else that, like, you couldn't get a stand.
No, I only do immediate solutions. Okay, immediate. I have books. I have problem. I solve problems.
Solve the problem, and now you have another problem that you want the book that's under the monitor. You can't get it.
Yeah. What are you going to do?
We interrupt this program to bring you an important question for Matt. Ajo asks, favorite font?
Favorite font? Probably, this is going to sound stupid, but like
Comic Sans.
Futura Extra Bold. Futura Extra Bold, or like extra black, whatever it is. It's like the thickest, meanest looking font, and it looks so unkind. But if you just change it to like a really bright poppy color, like a hot pink or a lime, oh, honey, it's beautiful.
Hot pink, Futura Extra Bold. There you go. There's your answer.
That's it. That's my favorite.
So how did you get into that line of work? What is it? Typesetting? What do you call it? Text.
I lied on my resume. That's how I got it. And they said, "Have you ever done this before?" And I said, "Yes."
They said, "Have you ever worked for an internet scam company?" And you were like, "No." And they were like, "Sweet, we'll hire you."
No, like 7 years ago. It was because I had my degree in creative writing, and I thought, well, I'm going to move to Melbourne, which is one of the publishing hubs in Victoria, in Australia. I was like, I want to get into publishing somehow. I just want to make books. And I figured, well, one way to get into that would be to get into editing. One way to get into editing would be to get into design. So a lot of like the typesetting work, some of it is kind of like monkey work, where it's like, look, we can teach you how to do this. And I was just hoping that I could find somebody that would do that for me. Yeah. And that's what they did. Like, they took me on with pretty much no experience, and it was trial by fire. It was great, you know. It's not even something that I go like, design is my passion, Rob. Design is my passion. It's not. It's just something that's in my skill set.
something you've learned
that
how to do by doing it, and you've
yeah.
worked out how to be good at it, good enough to not get fired.
Which degree did I do my creative writing degree? Ask Maria. I did it at, not doxing myself, university.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was going to say before when you said you're moving to Melbourne, I was like, and what street do you...
Oh, what street? Oh, yeah. I'm really excited about, 2022, guys. A lot of possibilities coming up. That's why I've made my PIN number 2022. So I'm just positive
Super
vibes.
excited.
Good vibes only, people.
Sorry, go on.
I had a question for you that was related to TV. And it's a really dumb question, okay? If you were running a D&D campaign, and the conceit was that you have to use the cast of characters from a TV series, who would you want to see as a D&D party from a TV series?
That's a good question.
And it's a good question, and I can keep talking if you need more time to think.
I'm running through a whole bunch of campaigns, TV shows. So I think Breaking Bad would be an interesting campaign because
would be interesting.
I've always had a thing for evil characters and characters that are morally grey and that sort of thing. I've always enjoyed that. So having a campaign where we see the characters going from good aligned to evil slowly over the course of the campaign. I've always been fascinated with the idea of exploring a character arc where you turn evil over time.
Yeah.
What
I like about that idea,
Walter White is definitely that sort of a character where the writer has specifically said in interviews and things like, I wanted to see how far he could go with people still rooting for him. Like, I wanted to see how far I could push him into doing despicable deeds and people still like explaining them away as like, oh yeah, but he's blah blah blah, and showing that everybody has the has it in us to be nasty pieces of shit if given the right series of circumstances that drive us to that.
What an interesting one. Choice as well. There are so many cool things in that because if you go like, let's look at the party members, Jesse and Walt, they have like an imbalanced relationship, which would be interesting in a D&D party for two characters to roleplay. But also, I actually like that idea of like, people are barracking for Walt even like a bad dude.
Yeah, and like really like gung-ho about hating his wife, even though she's...
I know.
You go
so
through
reasonable.
Any of the scenes and she is completely reasonable in her
hey,
fear
honey,
of him.
Can you... I've noticed you've been cooking a lot of meth. And I was just wondering, could you cook just a little bit less meth?
Fuck Skylar! Fuck Skylar! Fuck that character! Kill her, Walt! Burn her at the stake! So yeah, I that's another thing with the power dynamic. I really enjoy that as well. Like at the moment, I'm playing in a pirate-themed campaign with Dead as a Gamer, where I'm a Kenku ship master. I'm like a captain of the ship, and I'm really interested in exploring that power dynamic between characters, because normally in a D&D setting, like everybody, there's no like leader of the group, everybody's a party. I really like the idea of exploring how that works when the players are all in a line but the party members are not. Like there is a definitive guy who's in charge or whatever. And we've had conversations off screen about that like recently, because in the first 2 episodes of this campaign, my crew has done things that I should be punishing them for as captain. So after the last session, I had to be like, how do we want to like approach punishment? Like, is it okay? Like, I want to make sure that it's okay, like PvP, if my guy was to just like tie you to the mast and give you 30 lashes with the cat o' nine tails or whatever. Like, that's the sort of thing you can't normally do in a D&D campaign without it turning toxic or, you know, ending up on some Reddit thread. My DM did this. So yeah, I think it's an interesting one, and you'd be able to explore that with Breaking Bad. How about you? What's a series you'd like?
Very similar. Like, I want to explore evil characters, but also like crap characters, but also that power dynamic. I want to see a D&D party that is Tony Soprano and his shitty friends. Like, have you seen The Sopranos?
I haven't. It was always on my list of things to must sees, and I was always going to watch it.
It's really bad. But Tony Soprano is like this. I don't know. He's like a stone golem. You know what I mean? He's just a force of nature that just walks through problems. But he's got these orbiters, these like sycophants that just do whatever he says. and they all kind of hate him, but also respect him in some way. And it's just inevitable that they're all going to betray each other some way. Like they're all complete snakes. And I would just love to, I don't know, that fear dynamic where the other characters fear and respect this character. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, that is fun. I like that sort of idea. just interpersonal. Like I like the idea when you're playing with a group of friends that you fully trust. Like you actually know each other, and you know that you can have real character fights without it bleeding into player stuff. Like when everybody's on board with like you guys really hating each other as characters, but you're forced to stay together for some, I don't know, some arbitrary reason, some quest or whatever.
Yeah. Every now and then, like, I find myself, like, in character doing something like my character's going, right, I would never do this. This sounds like an awful idea. You're a leader. But then I step outside and go, hey, it actually sounds really fun. That's a great idea. You're doing a great job. And they're like, I'm never going to do this. I'll never trust you again. I'll be like, but for real, you're doing a great job. Like,
I love it. Let's keep going. But also, I hate this. What are people in the chat saying? Friends, seeing the six friends. The different. Chandler is a bard. Would Chandler be a bard? Funny man.
Ross would be a goblin, or like maybe a rust monster or something. What's something that sucks the life out of people, like a banshee? I don't know. That guy's a worm.
Ross would just be like a charisma dump studded wizard or something. Intelligent but not like.
Oh yeah.
It'd just be like the boring. Man, they've got so many problems there. Somebody else said Firefly. That would make an amazing one.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
Anything that's already an adventure series, obviously. If you want like if you run your D&D games like slapsticky, no consequences, just one thing to the next, always funny, whatever makes for the most fun in the moment, then something like The Simpsons, where you've got just characters where you can say anything goes, and then the next session you can just ignore it all.
If you wanted to go, Rob, if you want to go a real deep cut, imagine going like, oh guys, it's D&D challenge month, okay? Everybody go out and you have to play a one-shot based on this premise and then report back what it is. Then today's premise is your party has to play personalities based off your local news team that is on your news channel. And it's be like, okay, I'm going to be Karina Carvalho from ABC News, and you can be the weatherman, that beautiful man, and you can be like, you just have to play those characters as D&D characters.
You're just forcing all of your people to be like, oh, you need to watch the news for a bit.
Also, guys, did you guys? The world's messed up.
Have you heard the world's messed up? It's just a way of tricking your friends into watching the news. You need to play people based on Fox News presenters.
Oh, hey, I just got a letter. It says we're being sued by every news organization ever for libel. Good.
What else? There was something I was going to ask you about YouTube. I can't remember what it was. We'll see if it comes back to me. People cool. In the chat, what are your questions? What questions you got for us?
Yeah, hit me with questions. I love them. I love questions. It's like a quest with a little bit more. A little bit more.
Father Ted would be a pretty funny one.
Oh yeah. I never saw it.
Black Books. Is that the one?
Black Books is actually a very good answer. That would be because that's a campaign, dysfunctional.
Like, you'd have the bookshop being like your hub for your quest giving kind of thing. That's almost like West Matches. You always keep coming back to that particular bookshop, and having a bookshop instead of a tavern as your meeting point is already pretty unique.
Well, hey, that's something that I do all the time in my campaigns. Like, I theme them so strongly and I make sure everybody knows what we're doing. Like, here's an example. One of my favorite one-shots that I've written was like Battle of the Bards. We're all bards. We're trying to win Battle of the Bards. And to do that, what we're going to do is party as hard as we can, but also sabotage all the other bands. Yeah. So like, we're trying to get the other bands arrested or steal their instruments. But we have to make it to the gig on time because there's a timer going. I was like, we're on at 9. We've got to get there. Like, I'd love to do another one where like we are all clerics, and it's, guys, we're going to all be clerics. Everybody play a cleric this session, and we're going to do Men in Black, and we're trying to like protect the world from demonic incursions that are disguised as people, in the same way that aliens were disguised as people in Men in Black, and we can have like a holy neuralizer.
That's pretty smart. I like that. I remembered what I was going to talk to you about, but there's now questions rolling in, so I'll keep it, and I'll definitely remember to talk about it again when it comes back around, and I've forgotten.
Okay.
Quack asks, how do you get a dungeon master completely off guard during D&D?
How do you catch them off guard?
How do you catch them off guard? Yeah.
Okay, show up early, bring snacks. Be after the game.
Listen, take notes.
After the game, say, "Hey, thank you. That was really good. I really liked how you."
Thank you for the time.
Yeah, thank you for the time. And do you know what? I bought you a croissant.
buy them a croissant is the best answer. But buy them a croissant and don't give them it until the end of the session.
It's 10 hours old.
Why has it been on your lap? And it's just been sitting
on it.
It's on a paper plate on your lap the whole game. And then you just bring it out to give them a croissant. That would, I guarantee, catch them off guard.
You want to scare the crap out of them.
AJ says, I only have typesetting questions.
Oh, okay. They're fine as well.
She says, what's the biggest typesetting no-no?
Biggest typesetting no-no is not paying attention to what you're going to print on, what kind of paper. Because you look at the page, you look at your document on the page. Oh, sorry, we rephrase. You look at the document on the screen, your pixels are representing it mathematically as perfectly as they can, right? So if you look at it and go, oh, there's still some space between these letters, it's not squashed too much. But when you print something, if you're printing different on like laser, if you're printing with inkjet, depending on what kind of grade of paper you're printing on, it's going to run. Maybe the plate will slide when it prints. So you need to design in a way where if there is an imperfection in the way it prints, then it's still going to be legible. Because if you squash stuff too much, even if it's readable on the screen, it'll just print as a black blotch.
So you have to know the sorts of printing technique of how the book is going to be printed in order to design. Yep. And do you, after this many years of doing it, do you have an idea of like if somebody can tell you, oh, it's going to be printed on this paper with this particular type of printer and this finish?
Not at all.
So you have to do test runs of it. Like, can I print this one page and see how it comes out?
So what you do is, I only do stuff that's going to get printed commercially, right? So the printers themselves, the people that work at the print house, they are incredible experts on this kind of stuff. And I don't know dog shit about it, right? But what you do is at the start of the project, before you even start laying stuff out, you approach the printer. For example, with that D&D book that I did, Galda's Gazetteer, the first thing I did was start mocking up what I thought the page sizes would be and start sending like mock-ups to the printer. That was going to print it, the people that print it for print on demand at Drive-Thru-RPG. And I was like, okay, I think this is meeting your print specifications in that we need to have a margin that's this big and we need to have a bleed of this much. We need to have this much space left for glue when you're binding it and this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And even though I was trying to interpret their instructions so well, I still had to go back 3 or 4 times to be like, okay, I've moved this over 1/4 of an inch. Is that okay now? I'm like, yes. Because if you get it wrong, maybe when they trim it, they might trim off some of the text, or maybe when they glue it, they might glue some important graphic. And if I had started doing my work before getting that information, I would have just been, I don't know, it's easier to not do something wrong than it is to unstitch something that you've already done wrong,
True. Measure twice, cut once is what they say, isn't it?
Measure nunts, cry yourself to sleep.
Measure nonce. Nonce means something very different in the UK.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Fancy Unicorn says, Matt, what stuff do you look at to improve? And I think she just means as a human. She says you need improvement as a human. Like she's hinting.
I'm going to take that. Hey, Fancy Unicorn. Was it Fancy Unicorn who asked that? Hey, Fancy Unicorn. Every time Rob raids me, you're always in there going, everybody click follow. Come on, you cowards. Leave comments. Support the streamer. And I just appreciate that so much. I just wanted to say, like, thank you so much. I reckon you're doing a great job. The things that I do to improve, it's literally, I don't listen to people. I literally don't listen to anyone but myself. I'm super introspective about everything I do. And I try and take on like my own feedback. Sometimes this is insane what I'm about to suggest. Arbitrary change, arbitrary change. Just be like, look, I've gotten complacent in the way that I'm running my game. This is the format of my adventures, and we usually end on this kind of story beat or cliffhanger. Just go, look, I'm just going to do something different. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's a good idea, but I'm just going to do something different. Maybe, we always seem to finish with a combat at the end. What if instead we finished with a puzzle, you know? And what if like they didn't even finish the puzzle? What if I gave them the puzzle at the end of the session and I gave them time between sessions to actually think about it? Like how's that going to affect the dynamic? And even if you don't have a hypothesis about how it's going to turn out or even a plan, just try shit, man. Just give it a go and see what happens. Arbitrary change, and then be introspective about the results. That's how you improve.
So you don't watch like GM tips, guides, YouTubes. You don't read Reddit threads about like.
I don't have time, and also like I don't have the patience. Like I do D&D stuff all the time. Like I'm literally 6 days a week. I'm writing scripts, or I'm making stuff for my Patreon, or I'm streaming. It's not my leisure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I still enjoy it. It's not what I go looking to enjoy out there in the world. This is stupid. Whenever I'm looking for something to watch, do you know what I watch? I watch bloodbath internet debates. Just people screaming at each other. I love drama. I love it. It's so fun.
I love that
Did you
it's not
expect
like
that?
no, I didn't. I love that it's not like intellectual debates like IQ squared or something.
No.
What was that one? Where they actually have like factual things and a lot of time to discuss things. No, you just search like big row.
Here's what I do.
Guy yells at man in food stall.
It's stuff like yeah, but you tweeted this, and what did you mean by this? Why did you do this? Look at this Twitter thread. You got ratioed. And I'm like, he's really in for it now. This is salacious. This is I'm eating my 10,000 subscriber chip. This is spicy.
You're just tearing out pages as you go. Question from Leiren Sedai. Can you give us a situation where there was a campaign derailing moment, whether as a die roll or similar, where you had to go with it and completely retool your campaign and or at least the storyline as it applied in the moment?
Yeah, I've only ever had one. Here's the thing. I don't actually run a lot of D&D. I don't have a lot of time. I've probably run like 100 sessions ever. And I'm sure there's heaps of people in the chat that have run way more sessions than that, right? But I have time to run D&D like once a month. So when we had our first TPK and it devastated and obliterated all the players and party simultaneously, because if you die in the game, you die in real life. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
It was pretty difficult to recover from. It happened on session 3, and we were working through every character's backstory as well. I just had to cut all of those threads. And the problem was that I lay out at the start of every campaign, I say, my friends, we're going to play D&D for 7 sessions. I guarantee you, after 7 sessions, it's going to be over. But I didn't have a contingency in my head to go, well, what happens if the party dies halfway through? And I just had to go, oh my God. And what happened was like it was a wild magic sorcerer who called down a fireball on the party and killed them all in a fight that was already really clutch. That they were going to win, but hey, I can't fudge the dice on a wild magic sorcerer.
Yeah.
They go, I rolled an 8. I go, no, you didn't. No. You got that wrong. Just close your eyes for a sec.
I roll for the wild magic. Did I not say that in session 0? Sorry.
No. It's a mild magic sorcerer. Mild magic. You got it wrong. No.
It's a typo. It's mild-mannered sorcerer.
Yeah, it's in the errata. Anyway, everybody lives in the camp. So what we had to do was we had to change the storyline. And everybody had to make new characters. And what I did, the way I solved it, was I went, cool, you guys failed, but I want to have a repercussion or something from this. Mm-hmm. I needed to have something from the thing that they'd done to be integral to the second party succeeding.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't want to just go tell a different story. So what I did is I had the villain that they were chasing, and they were fighting, who was part of their defeat. I had her kind of live on in the second half, but she
Right,
wasn't a villain anymore. She was like more ambiguously and kind of helpful, and she was kind of helping the party in a little bit. She was more helpful because, hey, they weren't her enemy; it was the previous party.
So the character changed, or just her alignments, her goals aligned with the second parties a little better than they had the first. Like,
I changed the character. I
just kinda
retconned
changed
the
it.
character. So I made her be something that was going to be helpful. And it was just because I couldn't bear to have told myself, those 3 sessions that we played, guys, you know, they were really fun. They were a waste of your time. You
Yeah.
should have stayed home, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's one of I've got 3 rules for D&D. Respect everybody's time, challenge yourself, support each other. And if I just wasted 3 of their sessions, that's not respecting their time, you know?
I don't know though, because if I definitely would try and tie those dead people's characters into the new people's characters in some way, or their stories at least. But I also think that if it, like, because in the same respect, you can say that about your 7-session campaign, like whether it's a 3-session or a 7-session campaign, they were having fun and they were enjoying themselves playing for those 3 sessions or those 7 sessions. You could say the same about your 7 sessions. You get to the end, and what have you achieved? We've not achieved anything. We just played D&D for 7 sessions.
Well,
So, like,
well,
how is it not wasting their time to run the game for 7 sessions, but it is for 3?
look, I let me rephrase then. When I say waste their time, and when I say like finish, like we're going to finish in 7 sessions, it's not that we're going to stop playing. You know, a TV show that gets cancelled finishes.
Yeah.
You know, a TV show that, like, you know, actually reaches the end of its story, that's an ending, I suppose.
Right.
And I'm trying to say we're gonna get an end.
So,
You know, we're gonna get a narrative end.
Yeah, so in the sense of the TV show that gets cancelled halfway through, that's the waste of time, because you've watched the first 3 episodes, you've invested something into that you're never going to get back.
And all the promises that show made.
Yeah.
Like this character that came in the last episode, such a cool side character, and then they just, where did he go? He was so charming, you know.
Or
what happened again?
Or worse, they realise they're cancelled, so they've got like 1 session to wrap up everything, and then they go, fuck, got to rewrite all this stuff, leave it with gaping plot holes, ruin the whole thing.
I'm sorry, Rob. I'm sorry, but and like, let me also say again, like, in the spirit of being introspective, I could have done it better. I could have done it way better. But when I was trying to think, how do I recover from a TPK that's respectful to my players and those characters? That was just what I came up with at the time. It was, okay, let's bring that villain forward and just see what her plans came to and the way it ties into this kind of parallel story, because they weren't necessarily trying to accomplish the exact same goals for the exact same reasons. They was like parallel. But you were suggesting, like, maybe you could tie the new characters to the old characters, and that's something that I just personally don't like. You know, whenever it's, my character died, so here comes his
identical
father looking to avenge him. Yeah, like your skip. Yeah.
I would. I'm trying to think now. I've got multiple home games, and if one of them died, like, let me think examples. Like, one of them works in one of the home games. There's a warlock who works for a thieves guild, and like, if he was sent out on a mission and didn't come back because he died, it would make story sense for him to roll up somebody else who is a part of that thieves guild if he wanted to. I wouldn't impose that on my players to be like, you have to have some sort of tie-in, but I would ask that they have something that they're not just complete strangers to the people that had died. And that's for my own reason of the similar sort of thing of, I've invested 5 years with this home game of trying to tell a story to completion, and all of the main bad guys, every character arc from this point to the end has been at least somewhat thought about. Each of them is going to have a moment to shine, because each of them has their own main villain of their story that they're going to get a chance to confront or whatever. It just so happens that in that particular campaign, every one of the characters has daddy issues of some kind, and so they've got a bunch of different arcs that they can go on where they confront their daddy, or they confront the thing that caused their daddy to leave, or whatever.
What's their team name? Like, we're Daddy's Good Boys.
The team is called the Blue Steel Troop.
Mine's better. That's fine though.
We're Daddy's Good Boys. Daddy's Good Boys.
Daddy's Good Boys.
So, like, if
Daddy's Good Boys kicked the shit out of me the other day.
I just wanted posters around town for Daddy's Good Boys.
They must be stopped.
They must be stopped. They're running amok, Daddy's Good Boys. If their characters were all to die in a TPK, for a start, it means I've done something really wrong because I tried to balance them with somewhat. I'm not against telling people that I do use plot armor on my characters because their stories are heavily invested in where they're going. But if I fucked up so heavily that they ended up dying in a TPK, or like you say, something beyond my control, something that they're rolling in front of the screen that I can't fudge, suddenly goes off and kills them all, then I would still want them to, and I think they would want to, still have some investment in that story. They would choose an NPC that we've talked about but not seen or something, and then they'd probably roll that. And it would tie in the story that way.
Can I say, I actually agree with you in the instant the single character died. Saying, like, character has died, or maybe two characters died, half the parties... today in the news, 2 of Daddy's Good Boys were cut down in their prime. Who's to blame? What are we going to do? So when they want to bring 2 more people into Daddy's Good Boys, they should have something, a way that they can gel with the party's motivation, because that's still the party. But it's a different problem and a different solution and a different beast when it came to the TPK.
Yeah.
And I felt that solution of grafting different characters onto the motivation of this other party wasn't necessarily appropriate. And I will add in a little bit more information. Is that when we made that new party, it's not like we were making characters separately. It's we did the same thing. We did another session 0 of making characters together and be like, what is our party's goal?
Yeah,
you know?
And I think that is important to have that character creation, especially for a TPK. If you are going to be continuing on a campaign, you at the very least need to create the characters together. You don't need to be doing them in isolation and coming to the next session with characters. You all need to be talking about, like, where do we all want to go with this second half of this story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I just lost my train of thought. I'm starting to forget numbers. What's happening? I'm just
gonna stay silent and put you in this awkward position. You have to.
Oh no! Hey everybody, go to https://www.matthewperkins.net. All my ideas are there. That's where my brain lives.
Everything I've got. MatthewPerkins.net has encountered a problem and must reboot.
It's my phylactery, that website. You know, if I die, I respawn at that website in Sweden or wherever the internet lives. I don't know.
That is where the internet lives.
Really?
It's on the border between Norway and Sweden.
I know that. The reason I know that is because my website is adjacent to Wikipedia. It leaks.
The thing I was going to ask you about YouTube, was you mentioned you don't really watch other people's stuff and whatnot because you just don't have the time. It's not really your leisure. You'd prefer to watch people you don't know angrily shouting about topics you don't really care about.
Yeah.
But I happened to be watching a channel that I also really like the other day, Bob World Builder, and I heard a certain person's voice coming out of Bob's video. How did you know Bob?
Oh, look, here's a secret. Here's some trade secret, my friend. A lot of the D&D YouTubers know each other. Like, we all communicate and we share resources in the sense.
I haven't been invited. I've been a YouTuber for a year and a half now. Where's my invite to this club?
Do you want to join the club? It's
I would
fun.
love to join your club.
Okay, after you can join the club. I'll send you an invite after.
Awesome. Is there
you have to submit
membership
an application. There's a lot of fees and there's some blood, but we'll get into that. Don't worry. Don't worry about that. Yeah, so we all know each other. And we kind of share resources and analytics and stuff like that. And we often share failures as well. It's like, hey, I worked like 40 hours on this video and it got like 20 views.
This one that I thought was going to be like my big break has just completely tanked.
It always happens. It's brutal sometimes. So we all communicate all that kind of way. And that's in the same way that, like, Dag and the dreaded GM and AJ, everyone that you know, except the people that don't like people, but everyone you know, like, separately on the streaming side, it's a network and you support each other, right? Yeah. And every now and then someone comes to you with a stupid idea. It's like, hey, Rob, can you appear in this video and just do a stupid voice? That's what happened to me. Because Bob came to me with this gag. He goes, how cool, I've got this gag where the video's going to zoom in on my head as I'm thinking about fire. and I kind of want your voice to be my internal monologue, and I
It's just
don't
not
want to
explained.
address it at all.
I know, that was the thing that I thought, because you see YouTube collaborations all the time, and it's like, oh, and they're working together, and they introduce them, and this person's from this channel, and we made a video for their channel as well, but it just never it just zooms in, and I'm watching this video, there's no explanation that it's coming.
Yeah.
Just zooms in, and his inner monologue is your voice. I'm like, what the fuck? This guy's a British,
I sent him
Australian fella.
I sent him a bunch of takes. The one that I was hoping he would use, I did one take where it was like, "G'day everybody, I'm Bob's internal Australian monologue. How does fire work in Dungeons and Dragons? Struth." But he didn't use it.
I think he used it at the very end, because the only recognition is at the very end of that video. It says, "Thanks for Matthew Perkins for his contribution to this video," or something, and it says, and it's your voice saying, "Hello everybody, I'm Bob's Australian internal monologue." I think he cut it before it says "Struth."
I don't because I don't watch the videos all the way. But if somebody has a big project going, I'll stop on the YouTube channel. I'll do the analytics thing, stop the YouTube channel, play the video as I do something else, or like the video and leave the comment and reshare. I do all the stuff to appease the algorithm to support my friends. But I can't listen to it because I'm too busy listening to people argue about Twitter. Priorities.
So to bring it back in as well, and to tie it back, the reason I know about Bob is that when I was about a year and a half ago, when I was first starting streaming, and I was wondering about whether or not I could actually do this as a career and whether it would actually support me, is I was running Dragon of Ice Spire Peak for some kids at the time. I was a DM for kids for ages, and I was running the module. It's the only module I've ever really run, and I just didn't like it. It was so video gamey. It was like you start off in that particular quest, and there's minor spoilers for Dragon of Ice Spire Peak coming, but you start off in that particular module, and you're in a starting town, a little quest town, and there's literally a notice board of jobs to do, and there's 3 starter quests, and it says they go and do any 2 of these 3 quests, and as soon as they do, there's 3 more quests added that are obviously slightly higher challenge, and then once they've done 2 more quests, 3 more challenges get added, and you're just going off from this town and doing minor quests and coming back. It's kind of West matches in that sense. But one of the 3 starter quests was there's some dwarves nearby. They're excavating an old mine or something that's collapsed, and they don't know that there's a dragon moved into the area. The whole sort of premise of Dragon of Ice Spire Peak is there's a young white dragon that's moved into the area, and there's a bunch of monsters have been displaced because of the power dynamic shift and stuff. So one of the starter quests is you need to go and tell these 2 dwarves that there's a dragon in the area. And my kids, my party, went and did the other 2 quests, and then the next quests come, and they did some other quests, and eventually they needed the money, so they went, what can we do we'll just do this easy starter quest because you get 50 gold for it, and eventually they went and warned these 2 dwarves that there's a dragon in the area, but of course because I don't run my games like a video game. By the time they arrived, the dwarves were eaten. They were dead. There were signs of blood everywhere, and the dragon had been through and killed 2 dwarves that didn't know there was a dragon in the area, and they were like, "What? Oh, but it's a starter quest that says that we have to." And I was like, "No, you can't do that quest anymore. It's blocked off to you because of your choices."
Yeah.
And so it's things like that I was like, it was the first time I'd run a module of sorts. So I was like, tell you what content I could create for my YouTube channel that's just starting off. I could take one of these modules, and I'll give videos about how I would run it and the things that I changed to run it and things. And about the exact same time, I found Bob World Builder was doing the exact same thing with Dragon of Ice Spire Peak, one quest at a time, putting out videos exactly what I was going to do, and I was like, oh shit.
Dude, that's so funny.
And I commented on it being like, oh man, I was just about to start doing this, great videos, blah blah blah, and he was just super lovely in his replies. He's like, you should do it anyway because more content is better for everyone, and just all boats rise in a storm and all this. Just super lovely dude. And since then I've watched his stuff and would love to have him on for a short rest as well.
He definitely do it. I've chatted to him on my podcast before. He's really, really, and also he's right. Like, just because somebody's already done something doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. For example, my main thing is Lost Mines of Fendelver. everybody has a video about Lost Phandelver. It's been out for 40,000 years. But the difference in mine, like, is find a point of difference. Different as mine is that, like, one, I'm telling jokes. Two, I'm being super encouraging. You know, I'm being silly and you can do it. Don't worry. But three, I turned Lost Mines of Phandelver into a spaghetti western style. That's the kind of story beats that I hit. It's like, this town ain't big enough for the both of them. That everyone's like a cowboy, prospectors, hits all those kind of tropes. Throws cat hair floating in front of me. If I see it, I gotta catch it. It's really fun. It's really fun. So if you just find a point of difference, even if something's already been done out there, and I'm speaking to the chat now, hey, follow your heart. You can do it.
Because the thing that kind of persuaded me to that way of thinking more than anything else was just a simple cartoon meme I saw of, like, the first panel was a guy. It was a guy putting a cake down on a table next to a much bigger, nicer cake, and it said "content creators," and he's looking at the cake and he goes, "Oh man, their cake's way better than mine." And then the second panel was from the perspective of the guy on the other side of the table, and it said "content consumers." Yay, 2 cakes!
yeah. That's exactly it.
And ever since I saw that just real simple cartoony meme, I was like, yeah, it's not a zero-sum game. It's not like because they've putting out stuff and they're having success, I don't get success. I can't put out similar content. I'm okay with it. Like, it's as long as I'm not outright stealing their cake recipe, like as long as I'm still making my own shit, even if it has crossover with them, it's fine for that to be allowed. People are just going to enjoy having more things that they like to consume.
And the way that these algorithms work on these websites is that if you are making similar content, that might mean that you get kind of paired up. You know, there might be a kind of link that gets applied, and when someone watches this incredible cake video, they'll see your cake video. We're all on the cake train.
Yeah,
the cake train, baby.
Everybody loves cake. All right, last couple of questions from the chat. Then I'll open it up. Give me some more questions, everybody, and then we'll let Matthew Perkins.net get off to do whatever he does. Yeah, I've got to full name you, and now you've got a .net underneath your picture, so I've got to add that as well.
Beautiful.
Newbie Goddess says, "Why is the sky blue?"
It is blue because of the way light refracts through the ozone layer. So if the ozone layer were made out of a kind of gas, you know, if it wasn't O2, then it might refract in a different angle, and actually the prism would come out as, you know, I don't know, green or something. And that's the same reason that when the sun's setting, it's coming in at a different angle again. So that's why it comes through as orange, because it's hitting at a different angle.
It's called Rayleigh scattering. Congratulations.
Oh, is that what it's called?
It is called Rayleigh scattering. Rayleigh or Raleigh.
Did I get it right?
You did. You got it right. Well
okay,
done. Good. What else we got? What's Matt's favourite villain that he's played? Ooh, that's a good question. What's your favourite villain? Played? Yeah, an NPC villain that you've played in a campaign. What's been the most fun?
My favourite villains aren't necessarily villains all the time. Like, I think a good villain, sometimes all you need is a rival. You know what I mean? A villain that, like, a character that just has goals that somehow impede or compete with the party. You know, an antagonist isn't a bad guy.
Yeah.
They're just someone that wants something different from the protagonist. So my favorite antagonist was this bouncer. He was this halfling bouncer called the Nug, and he had on his knuckles the full stop Nug full stop, and
he's got the full stops.
Okay, and
because I was going to be like, oh, the halflings only have 3 fingers, and you know he's got a full stop.
The Nug. And the Nug, he became their adversary when he just wouldn't let them in the pub. I was like, they hated him, and they're like, we've got to get into the pub. And so he just kept on coming back. Eventually, there was this big tavern brawl, and they beat the crap out of the Nug. And he was wearing this championship belt that had like a little turbine on it that he could spin, and it would go, and it would cast Compelled Duel at someone.
Oh, nice.
Because he would like figure that out. And they beat him up, and they took his championship belt.
Oh.
So the way that he became like their rival in this sense was that he appeared in like the penultimate session of this 7-session campaign, and drunkenly approached the person who had the championship belt, and he's a mess. He's like, I need my belt back. You didn't earn it. I'll kill you, Valentine. And the party at this point, this is just evolving into a D&D story. I hope you're okay with that. The party at this point, their plan was to go find the actual bad guy, big villain of the campaign, and stop his wedding because he was going to have a very important wedding. So they wanted to go break up the wedding. And the Nug shows up and he goes like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Valentine goes, whoa, whoa, instead of fighting me now, how about don't want to fight you here, but I'll tell you where we're going to be in 2 weeks. And they gave him an invitation to the wedding. So in the wedding, they all had to find ways to sneak into the wedding. And I told them, the players, I said, guys, the Nug is going to be at the wedding. Don't worry about it. He'll show up. The party all snuck into the wedding to break it up. And it got to the point where it's like, speak now or forever hold your peace. And Valentine steps forward out of his disguise as one of the waiters. He hands his tray and his apron to like some snot-nosed teenager working next to him and says, I'm going on break. And to go object to this wedding. Halfway through the fight, the Nug bursts out of the wedding cake and just starts swinging. And there's like cake and candles flying everywhere. I made this mechanic for the Nug because he hated Valentine. Valentine had the championship belt. And he showed up to fight Valentine. But he's not aligned with the good guys or the bad guys. He's just there to punch dudes, okay? So every time the Nug had a turn, I go, Valentine, make a charisma check. And if he failed, the Nug would fight Valentine.
Good for him,
if he
yeah.
succeeded, he'd fight the enemies.
Whoever.
Valentine failed every time. So they invited the Nug to help.
It's like he's singling him out at that point.
And so the Nug is just like this hail of fists, and Valentine's going, "No, hit those guys, hit those over there." And
it's like getting a fighting dog in a cage and like beating it and getting it riled up, and then as soon as you let it go, it goes for you. Oh, crap!
He was like a Jack Russell with fists. He was just going, and Valentine eventually had to like sink his biggest smites into the Nug to drop him. And we had this really lovely moment where the Nug was like laying on his back unconscious, and he came to, and Valentine had his hand down to help him up, and the Nug knocks it away and goes, "You're a dog, Valentine." I'm like, I love it. And the Nug had to like just leave. He didn't get his championship belt.
That is a wonderful
That's my favorite
story.
villain.
That is a wonderful story, and it's time. I don't want to keep you past, so okay. We'll end on that wonderful story there. And because we're both professionals, we will definitely be able to do a decent outro where we can plug our respective things without. I've already fucked it up.
Oh, no.
Just without stumbling on words is what I was literally going to say, and then I couldn't think of the word stumbling, which is just the height of irony. So I don't know why I'm not better. I should just record it one time, and then I could just have a screen that I can click on, and it just says it for me.
Need text-to-speech.
So we'll start with you, Matthew Perkins. Can't just cut. I'll cut it all out. This is okay, good. It's going to be like a 20-minute episode when I put it on YouTube. Okay, so that's all the time we have for today, everybody. MatthewPerkins.net. Thank you very much for joining me. It has been an absolute blast. Where can people find you, MatthewPerkins.net?
Hey, you can find on my website, roberthartley.net. My website is MatthewPerkins.net. There you can find links to a YouTube channel. You can find links to a Twitch channel, and also find links to my Patreon. Patreon is how I support myself, right? That's how I do my stuff. I am a professional typesetter. I do design and writing professionally. So on my Patreon, my dude, I've got so much stuff that's going to help you make your game special, especially if you're running Storm King's Thunder or you're running Lost Mines of Phandelver. I have stuff that's going to help you through the whole campaign. Well, the whole campaign of Lost Mines, most of Storm King's Thunder, because I'm still working through it. And over on my Twitch channel, if you are watching on Twitch right now, my dude, click my name, click follow, because I am playing Dark Souls right now. I just beat Dark Souls 1 this morning, and tomorrow, in like 4 hours, I'm going to beat Dark Souls 2. Woof!
You're going to beat it? Not start it?
I'm going to hit it.
You're going to give it your best shot.
I'm going to give it a bit of a punch. Yeah.
I tried Dark Souls for like two streams, and I just couldn't. I was like, nah, this is not for me. Oh, wow. Not my thing. What is my thing, okay. Seamless transition, is Dungeons and Dragons. I do this for a living. I am Robert Hartley GM. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv, Robert Hartley GM. You can find me on YouTube at Robert Hartley GM. You can find me anywhere on Robert Hartley GM, because I know how to market. I do Dungeons and Dragons related content. I also am the DM for Viva la Dirt League. And finally, I am the writer slash creator slash screen showrunner for D&D Logic, a comedy skit series about D&D. So you might have seen me all manner of places, and if you're watching this and you didn't know that about me, you've probably come from Matthew Perkins' community.
Hey, what's up?
And please come on over and join my community as well, because this is how I earn a living. Please.
Hey, can I say something on the record for you, Rob?
Yes.
I am so grateful every time that you raid me and all the lovely people that you send my way. Your community is super supportive, and you're super supportive of smaller creators. Because even though you said that, like, I was one of the people that bloody helped you get into the game, and you were watching my videos when a wee ween, a wee ween. You are like a bastion in this community, and part of that reputation is the way that you support other creators, and it's genuinely inspiring, and I'm really grateful to have you as a friend.
Thank you very much, buddy. I really appreciate that, and I look forward to playing a game with you in person when we finally get to meet. It was due to be a month ago at PAX Australia, but for reasons the world is shut down. But eventually, the world will open up, and I will come to Australia. I'll come to Melbourne, and we'll play D&D together.
That'll be fun. That'll be good.
All right. Until that time, thank you for watching, everybody. Stick around for the raid. I'll stick you on an ending soon screen, and we'll go raid somebody.
Bye.
Goodbye.